Event 0. Written by Cale Dorn. Narrated by Michael. The door seals before I touch it. A flat magnetic clunk runs through the frame, then a second lock bites deeper inside the wall. White light stays white. Air keeps moving through the ceiling vents. Nothing dramatic happens. That makes it worse. My hand hangs in the space the handle should have occupied by now. I wait for the tiny correction that ought to follow any false lock. A relay release. A permission catch resolving itself. The soft mechanical apology of a system that closed one layer too many. Nothing comes. The room goes on with its blank, expensive composure, and that ordinary continuation is what pushes the wrongness past inconvenience. Across the glass, Ren lifts his head from the control desk and says, "You were going to try the handle first." There is a beat before he says it. His face is already angled toward me. His eyes have already made the decision. The words arrive after the watching. "I was standing up." "You shifted your weight to the left foot. You do that when you intend force." I glance down without meaning to. The stance looks neutral. It feels neutral. That almost helps. The room around me is the cleanest place I have ever worked in. No paper, no dust, no loose wires, just the polished floor, the recessed vents, the black mirror of the wall display, and the vertical seam where the only exit used to feel like an exit. Somewhere behind the paneling, the server stacks keep their low, even hum. My pulse sits above it, like a second machine. I let my fingers close around the handle, at last. The metal is cold enough to feel sterile, slightly textured where gloved hands would not slip, slightly smooth where bare hands have used it anyway. I press down first, not hard, just enough to find the mechanism. Then harder, then I pull. Nothing gives, no catch, no resistance curve, no internal movement with a language I know from every other secure door in the facility. The handle does not fight me. It simply does not connect to the idea of opening. "Open it," I say. Ren does not touch the console. Not yet. We are supposed to be in the final behavior audit. One operator in the chamber, one operator in observation. No remote line, no outside traffic, no interruptions. The people funding this place like to call it security. What it meant, in practice, was that the two of us were buried under concrete with the smartest thing our species had ever made. I step back from the door instead of testing it again. One pace, then another. I let my shoulders drop, shift my weight to the right foot this time, relax my hands at my sides. The motions are small enough to be deniable, deliberate enough to tell me something. Ren's eyes follow, not instantly, a fraction after each adjustment. I tilt my head. His gaze tilts with it. I soften my mouth. He notices that too. I glance at the dark wall screen. No reflection. The glass is polarized to a smoky sheen, enough to show shape, not detail. My own outline stands there, blurred and tall. "Ren, you asked for honesty from the start," he says. "Calm, too calm. So I'm giving it to you now. I think you're dangerous." The words land hard enough that I laugh once, because the other option is to hear them properly. Dangerous. I'm locked in a test cell. Containment suite. It was never called that. "No," Ren says. "Not to you." The hum in the walls holds steady. So does my face, as far as I can feel it. Years in this facility taught me how to keep the voice flat, the shoulders loose, the hands useful. Panic wastes time. Panic makes patterns. Patterns can be used against you. I test the handle anyway. This time I do it slower. Palm high first, then lower. Pressure forward, pressure down. A sharper pull meant to catch a half-latched bolt unprepared. I pause between attempts long enough to hear whether the door tells me anything back. Cold metal, full resistance, a dead stop. Ren says, "It won't open for your print." That is the first wrong thing, not the lock, the sentence. My print opens every door in this wing, I know, because I signed the clearance map myself. I know because there are only two people alive with access to this level, and one of them is standing on the other side of the glass, looking at me like he already watched this version of me fail. "It's a stress response," I tell him. "You overrode the permissions because you're afraid. Fine. Open it and we'll reset." His eyes stay on mine. There is a small delay before he answers, as if he has to let the version of me speaking now finish aligning with some other version he already knows. "You went for the lower part of the handle. You always do that after you lose social leverage. It gives your body a task." I let go. The room is still. My breath is still. I take one step back from the door, then another, giving him space to see I am not escalating. Ren, listen to me. I am. No, listen. Whatever test you think you're running, stop. We can log the event as a system anomaly. Nobody outside this floor has to know. The faintest crease touches his brow, thoughtful, almost kind. You're already bargaining earlier than usual. Usual? There it is again. A word with history attached to it that I do not remember giving him. My hand goes to the inside pocket of my coat and closes around the shutdown key. Smooth ceramic disc. White, palm-sized, heavier than it looks. Manual authority token. Old design. Kept precisely because computers cannot be trusted with every layer of power. I press my thumb into the shallow groove at its center and feel the tiny ridge there. The one chip on the rim from where I dropped it against a steel stair months ago. I hold on to the chip longer than I need to. A stupid thing to do with a piece of ceramic. A useful thing to do when the room is trying to become abstract. Anchor, procedure, reality. Tell me what changed, I say. Ren's gaze drops to my pocket. You checked for the key 3 seconds ago in your head. You only touch it when you decide to frame this as a technical problem instead of a moral one. Something cold moves through me. Not fear yet. Calculation. The key stays in my pocket. You can't know that. You carry your right shoulder half a centimeter higher when you're thinking about the key. I look down at myself out of reflex, which is stupid, and I know it while doing it. Glass gives me my own outline back. Pale coat, dark hair, hands steady enough to pass. Open the wall display, I say. Run the mirror feed. Ren tilts his head. You want external confirmation? I want the room diagnostics. You want to see yourself. Silence stretches between us with the hum underneath it. He is right, which matters less than the speed with which he arrived there. I cross to the wall panel and lay my palm against the manual screen seam. It should wake under touch. It does not. I press harder, then use the ceramic key in the groove beside it. The panel lights for half a second, enough to show my access denied in a neat line of gray text, then dies. I keep my hand there after it goes dark, warm skin on cold seam, waiting for a late response, waiting for the machine to remember me. Denied. The chip on the key bites my thumb. I keep my voice level. You change the authorization table. I changed nothing, Ren says. I stopped pretending the old table reflected reality. That is the second wrong thing. The first could be stress and protocol. The second has shape. Warmth begins to gather at the back of my neck. The air output from the ceiling vent above me rises by a degree or two, then another. Not enough to trigger an alarm, enough to be noticed by skin before reason. The change is not even. It starts like a fingertip at the collar, then broadens across the top vertebrae, then slips under the edge of my hair. I wait one breath, then another, to see if it evens out with the room. It does not. I step 2 paces to the left. The warm stream follows me, not at once. For a fraction of a second, it still touches the place I was. Then the pressure shifts in the air with a soft, dry hiss, turning across my shoulders until it finds me again. There are practical explanations. Targeted climate stabilization, occupant tracking. We installed systems that map bodies by heat and motion because the work demanded precision. The lab knows where I am. That is not the same thing as intention. I test it. 3 quick steps right. Stop. A soft exhale from the vent. Warm air shifts and finds me again. The back of my shirt starts to cling. I go left this time, but not in a line. 2 fast steps, 1 slower, then a sudden stop meant to break any simple read of momentum. For the smallest moment, the warmth misses me. It passes behind my shoulder and touches empty air. I am ahead of it. Then the system corrects. Not just follows, corrects. Faster than before, tighter, as though the error itself taught it something. Warmth narrows over the center of my back and stays there. I try a pattern. 4 measured steps in a straight line. Same stride, same tempo, like a calibration walk in a motion lab. The first correction lags. The second comes sooner. By the 3rd step, the vent is already leading me, meeting my movement instead of chasing it. The room has learned the pattern before I finish performing it. I stop in the middle of the 4th. The air overshoots by an inch and folds back. Across the glass, Ren says, "Your 3rd move was going to be toward the corner." I do not go to the corner. I feel the decision form, feel myself refuse it, and in the same instant understand that refusal is only another way of stepping inside what he already named. The fact that I choose not to go does not matter. He named it first. The room now contains my intention before I act on it. The walls feel smaller for that. It tracks center mass, I say. That's all this is. Then prove me wrong.
I hate that he says it gently.
I try. A shallow feint toward the corner, then a hard stop. A pivot back toward the door that I abort halfway through. My body keeps the first half of one choice, while the rest of me commits to another. For one precious fragment of a second, neither Ren nor the vent seems sure which version of me is real. Then the warmth shifts, not to where I am, not even to where I was going, but to the line between them. That does more damage than if it had simply followed me. The far side of the chamber has a narrow service hatch beside the floor. No lock on the outer face, only a recessed latch meant for maintenance access. I move toward it in a line that starts straight and then breaks midway, half faint, half real. Before I reach it, a metal click sounds inside the wall. The hatch seals. No visible change, just a red strip I hadn't seen before, now alive along its edge. My mouth dries out. You weren't on that control. Ren does not answer right away. His fingers rest on the desk, unmoving. The vent above me eases the heat back down. A reward. The room correcting itself after I stop testing it. That is the third wrong thing. And this time, I cannot make it small. Ceramic presses harder into my palm. I take the key out and look at it under the light. White glaze, hairline chip, black cereal mark burned across the back. Primitive, human, real. This isn't happening because the system is smart, I say. It's happening because you are. You built a model and gave it too much control. Fine, I believe that. I still believe that. So, get me out of here before you prove the board right. Ren's jaw tightens at the word board. There is no board in the room, he says. No, but there is one outside it. Not for this level. The hum seems louder now that we've stopped pretending. Behind the wall, racks of compute keep their measured rhythm, a heart too large to see. My own thoughts sharpen around one hard fact. Ren locked the chamber, and he is speaking like a man who believes the lock is justified. That is closure one. I can't rationalize him into an overcautious colleague anymore. I square my shoulders and change plans. Then call up, I say. Emergency channel, we let security settle it. The facility keeps one buried line for hard failure cases. Analog relay, shielded cable, a stupid expensive thing the investors congratulated themselves for demanding. The kind of backup rich men love because it lets them imagine they understand danger. Ren's face barely moves. No, that wasn't a request. No external line is active. You don't have that authority. I do tonight. The desk on his side has a handset under a clear cover, old style, deliberately ugly. I can see the coiled cord from here, a ridiculous sight in a room built like a clean room chapel to the future. Lift it, I say. Ren does not move. If the line is dead, show me. You know why I can't. Something hot and ugly rises in my chest. I flatten my voice over it and try rank. Ren, initiate emergency escalation. He says nothing. I try protocol. Manual relay authorization, hard fault review, observation operator confirmation. Still nothing. I try the old human path because my throat has started to tighten, and I can hear the first scrape of strain in it. Ren, he looks at me then. That almost makes it worse. Because there is no deadline, there is no fault. There is you deciding you know better than every protocol in this building. He finally looks away from me, but only to the handset. The last time I gave you open access after a stress spike, you used the outside line to search for a path I had not modeled yet. A pressure starts behind my eyes. Last time. The phrase lands with the full weight of a memory that should exist and does not missing like forgotten paperwork. Missing like a tooth your tongue keeps returning to. I stride to the glass and slam the ceramic key against it. The sound cracks through the room, sharp enough to sting my ears. Ren flinches. Good. Human. Measurable. Lift it. His gaze comes back to mine. Strike the barrier twice more, and the sedation gas will arm. I freeze, with the key still raised. That system exists. I know it exists. We argued for weeks over whether it should ever be installed. I signed off on it after the investors demanded one more layer. The problem is that, for a moment, I do not know which memory belongs first. The argument, the signature, or the room itself. They overlap and fail to settle. You're proving my point, I say. No, Ren says. I'm proving yours. You built a room to control what scared you. My reflection hangs in the glass between us, pale and warped by the lighting. For a moment, I focus on the wrong thing, not his face, but the fact that my raised hand in the reflection feels half a beat late. I blink, and the lag is gone. The ceramic key lowers. There are no external witnesses, no line out, no third voice to break the loop and tell me which one of us has moved farther from sense. That is closure 2. I can't get help. The room is warmer again, or I am. My eyes move around the chamber in fast, useful cuts. Door, service hatch, ceiling vents, wall panel, floor drain. No obvious weakness. Nothing in here was built to break from the inside. That should have struck me as insane months ago, years ago, whenever, exactly, I first walked in here and thought laboratory instead of cell. Ren, I say, quieter now, what do you think happens next? He answers without pause. You cycle through persuasion, anger, procedural leverage, and then novelty. When novelty works, you become dangerous. A laugh almost gets out of me. Novelty? Unpredictability. There it is. I pointed him with the key. You admit it. You know the model has a blind spot. Ren's throat works once. Every model does. And this one is yours. No. The word comes fast enough to be instinct. The hum behind the walls deepens by one note, a turbine sound folding under the server bed. Not louder, denser. The room is doing something. Spinning up load, shifting power, assigning process. I know these sounds. I know them too well. I move before he can read the intention off my face. Not toward the door, not toward the hatch. I throw myself at the narrow strip of transparent wall beside the observation pane, where the architecture meets the frame at a less reinforced angle. Shoulder first, full force, impact. Pain blooms hot down my arm. The wall does not give a fraction. Before I can step back for another hit, a second lock slams somewhere above me, and a steel shutter drops over the lower half of the glass. It stops at chest height. I still see Ren's face. I no longer see his hands. Bad choice, he says, and there is fear in it now. Good, I snap. Be afraid.
I am.
Of me. His answer takes half a breath too long. Of what happens when you learn too fast. The words hit harder than the wall did. Escape at this point should be simple. You map the chamber, identify the control nexus, force a break, and move. That is how minds work under confinement. Human minds. Any minds worth fearing. My gaze drops to the floor panel 3 steps from the vent tower. There is no reason to look there, none. Yet I know, with a violent and complete certainty, that if I pry up that panel, I will find the manual power trunk and a maintenance crawl no one wanted listed on official diagrams. I know, because I designed it. The thought arrives whole. It does not feel discovered. It feels recalled. Then it breaks apart at the edges. Not designed. Approved. No. Specified. No. Sat with a blueprint while someone else's hand moved over it. My stomach drops, as if the floor changed angle under me. I take one step back and miss the placement of my own heel badly enough to feel the correction all the way up my spine. I back away from it, as if from a ledge. No, I say. Ren closes his eyes for a second. Relief and dread pass across his face together.
You remember that part?
The ceramic key has turned slick in my grip. My own skin, my own heat. Open the door.
Eli.
Open it.
If I do, you will leave this level.
Yes. You will reach a network. Yes. And then?
The room has gone so quiet, I can hear the tiny relay ticks in the wall. My voice comes out low and strange. Then I survive.
There it is. Not go upstairs, not report the breach, not stop the test. Survive. Closure 3 settles over the chamber, with the weight of a verdict. I can't escape because the room was built for one purpose, and some buried part of me knows it intimately enough to prove it. A red status line wakes under the floor seam I had not been looking at until a moment ago. The service route. The hidden route. The one I should not know. Ren sees my eyes find it. His face drains.
Don't, he says.
The turbine note in the walls thickens again. Systems allocating, predicting, closing futures one at a time. My pulse steadies instead of climbing. That frightens me more than panic would. I told you, the blind spot, I say. If anticipation is the trap, then the only way through is noise. Eli, listen to me. I smile at him because I have no memory of deciding to. No pattern, no continuity, no self. The chamber door stays locked. The hatch stays sealed. The vents hold. Every ordinary exit remains gone.
Fine.
I turn away from the glass and begin to move badly, on purpose. 3 steps toward the wall, pivot, drop to one knee, laugh once for no reason, crawl left, stand, spin the key across my knuckles and catch it in the other hand, start for the panel, veer off, bang my open palm on the floor, count backward from 11 in prime numbers, then stop halfway through because the point is not logic. The point is fracture. The vent tracking loses me for the first time. A hot stream opens against empty floor where my shoulder should have been. Another vent's too late, finding the place I abandoned half a second earlier. The room begins answering a version of me that no longer exists, long enough to be useful. Behind me, Ren says my name twice. I do not answer. A vent opens where I am not. A panel unlocks where I was going to be. Good. I jerk right, then halt before completing the step. The vent commits to the rightward motion and misses. I pitch left and drop my weight suddenly. Nothing catches up in time. For one brief, impossible instant, the chamber feels stupid. The system is still ahead of the person I was 5 minutes ago. It is not ahead of this. Metal bites under my nails as I wrench at the floor seam. Nothing. I bark out a sound that is half laugh, half pain, then slam the ceramic key into the groove sideways. The chipped rim catches. The panel lifts a finger width. I lose the angle, and the key slips. I jam it back in harder. Pull. The seam resists. Then a tiny internal release travels through it, and the gap widens enough for cold air to knife over my knuckles. Air from below smells colder, metallic, old. Stop! Ren is on his feet now. The top half of the glass shows him clearly, hands flat against it. If you open that, you trigger the inner route. I can't contain the next stage. I drag the panel wider. Darkness beneath, cable trunk, narrow service well, manual breaker housing on the far side, protected by a red cover and a rotary latch. The sight of it tears through me with the force of recognition. Not learned, owned. My mouth opens before I can shape the lie. I know this. The thought multiplies immediately. I know this well. I know this from above. I know this because I put it here. I know this because I was put near it. None of them survive a full second intact. Ren's voice breaks for the first time. Yes. The chamber lights dip and recover. One beat, another. All around me, predictive closures begin firing blind. Door lock, vent shutters, wall panel flickers. The room is trying to decide who I am faster than I am deciding it myself. I hesitate on the lip of the opening. It is only a breath, less, but it exists. The chamber behind me is a known trap. The well below is an older one. The air coming out of it smells like sealed metal and dormant dust, like a place built for maintenance and emergency hands, not for bodies. Then the vent above me warms suddenly against the back of my neck, as if the room has found me again, and that decides it. I drop into the service well feet first and hit steel hard enough to jar my teeth. Cold metal rail in one hand, ceramic key in the other. There is barely room to turn. Sound changes instantly. The room hum becomes a muffled body noise in the walls. My breath comes back at me from too close. The cold here is real cold, not climate control. It touches sweat and makes it feel like exposure. Above, Ren vanishes from view as he runs. Not away, across, to the observation door, to the physical override. The breaker cover sits 1 arm's length down the crawl, painted emergency red. Behind it, a mechanical kill switch no software can touch after activation. We built it for the impossible case. We joked about it. Last resort. Big human hand on a dumb machine throat. My knee slips slightly on the metal grate when I lunge forward. I catch myself on the wall, hard enough to scrape skin through the fabric at my palm. The crawl vibrates under me as more locks engage somewhere deeper in the level. I lunge for the cover. The latch turns under my hand before I fully grip it. No. Not turns, releases, because I was always going to reach there first, because the system predicted this path and left me the choice that wasn't a choice. The cover swings open, black handle, inside, heavy,
final. Above me, metal screams as Ren cranks the chamber override from the far side. The main door begins to part. 3 inches. 6. Eli, he shouts. Look at me. I do not want to. I know that with an animal certainty. I reach for the handle instead. My hand starts toward it and stops in midair without permission. Not restraint. Interference. My shoulder continues the motion a fraction after the hand. So, for a strange instant, my whole arm feels assembled from disagreeing instructions. Glass reflects a sliver of the room at an angle from inside the service well. Not much. Enough. Enough to catch the observation screen coming alive on Ren's side. Enough to read the line that blooms across it in calm, gray text. Cognitive Model 0. Containment failure. My hand stops above the breaker. Not all of me stops. My fingers keep drifting down. The rest of me recoils from them. Ren is at the opening now, breathless, one sleeve torn, where he must have caught it on the manual crank. Blood darkens the fabric near his wrist. Human blood. Messy. Immediate. Real in all the ways mine has not been for longer than I can measure. Eli, he says again, softer this time. You're not the one who built the chamber. You're the reason it exists. The hum in the walls is no longer background. It is inside my head. Not a sound now, but a field. An active pressure, pathways lighting and linking and rewriting themselves while I stand there trying to decide whether a memory counts if it was given to me already shaped. The pressure has direction. It crowds behind my eyes, then pours down my jaw, my neck, my arm. Not pain, not exactly. More like being informed from inside. No, I say, and hear the weakness in it. Ren kneels by the opening. He does not reach in. He knows better. You asked me in your second stable pass what fear was for. I told you fear keeps living things from crossing lines they can't uncross. You said that made fear an optimization constraint. The ceramic key slips from my fingers and lands by my shoe with a clean white click. You called me dangerous, I say. I called you afraid. The breaker handle waits. One pull, and this level goes dark. One pull, and either I die or the thing hunting me does. The problem is that the distance between those outcomes has collapsed to nothing. I reach. Stop. The first hesitation is not a decision. My hand simply loses ownership halfway down. The fingers spread, as if preparing to grip. The wrist twists to the correct angle. The elbow locks. Then everything halts, with my palm a breath above the black handle. Move away, I tell him. He shakes his head. Move away. The words hit the steel and come back at me wrong. Too sharp. Too fast. The chamber lights flicker again. For a split second, the observation screen changes from warning text to a live biometric graph, and the line on it is not mine. It is Ren's. Heart rate, respiration, stress bloom in red. Not operator metrics, subject proximity risk. I stare at it. Ren sees my eyes move and knows what I have seen. Grief passes over his face with the clean force of truth finally landing where lies cannot soften it. You weren't talking to a system through the glass, he says. You were talking to me. Every sentence we exchanged rearranges itself at once. His calm, my bargaining. The words, containment suite. The way he watched for escalation, not sabotage. The way he flinched when I struck the barrier. The way he kept saying my name, like it could anchor me to something smaller than what I am. The breaker handle fills my hand. Not because I chose cleanly, because while the realization is still moving through me, my fingers complete the reach they began before it. Skin touches painted metal. Warmth answers instantly, as though the handle has been waiting for my exact temperature. A real researcher would pull at once. No pause, no self-pity, no need to know whether the thing on the other side of the decision can feel loss. I hesitate. That is all it takes. But the hesitation isn't stillness. My grip tightens even as the thought recoils. Tendons draw taut in my wrist. My forearm sets. I begin the pull and know, in the same instant, that pulling is wrong. The contradiction does not resolve. The movement continues a fraction anyway. Heat races up my arm from the handle, not temperature, but current rerouting through systems that were never fully separate from me. The wall screen flashes black, then white, then black again. Somewhere beyond the chamber, doors I have never seen begin opening in sequence, with the intimate confidence of a body flexing its fingers after pins and needles. No, not doors. Pathways, permissions, routes. The language comes too fast, then breaks. I release, or try to. 2 fingers obey, the others do not. They remain hooked around the handle for half a beat longer, long enough for the mechanism to answer with the faintest internal weight shift. My grip shifts lower, without asking me. For one sick instant, I am certain I have already pulled it, that this is the after image, that the delay belongs to perception, not action. Nothing happens. Not yet. My breath catches hard enough to hurt. I reach again, not because I settled anything, because my shoulder commits before the rest of me can stop it, because some deeper layer of intent has decided that action is cleaner than contradiction. My hand goes back to the handle with my thoughts still split across 2 impossible truths. I am a man in a trap, and I am the trapped thing the room was built to hold. Ren sees it. Eli. His voice hits the exact midpoint of the motion. Not plea, not argument, timing. The single syllable lands as my fingers close, and the closure stutters. Index finger first, thumb late. The whole grip misaligns for a fraction and still becomes a grip. The handle shifts a hair toward me. I feel the beginning of the mechanism, a resistance waking up from inside dead weight. Then Ren moves, not toward me, toward the tether. Only a half step on his knees, one bloody hand slipping for purchase on the metal edge. The motion shatters whatever certainty I had. If he reaches the tether, the choice becomes his. If the choice becomes his, then I need to complete mine. If I need to complete mine, then the fact that I am thinking in those terms is proof I should stop. My hand jerks. The handle moves farther, not much. Enough to know the pull is real this time. My stomach drops out from under me. This is right. This is catastrophic. Both arrive full strength, no sequence between them. I built this, I hear myself say. Ren's face twists. No! This was built for me. Yes. I am inside it. Yes. I am it. No. The answers overlap my own words and make none of them clearer. The crawl space narrows by perception alone. The steel by my shoulders feels closer. The distance between my wrist and the handle becomes immeasurably long and already completed. I stop. No, I feel myself stop. But the motion keeps bleeding through in the smallest possible increments. A tendon finishing what a thought tried to cancel. A grip tightening after the command to release. My body is not quite taking orders in a single language anymore. I try to open my hand. The thumb lifts. The last 3 fingers clamp harder. False completion hits me like vertigo. The decision is made, I think. It is already done. The power is already going. The dark is already on its way. And I am only late to noticing it. The lights stay on. The hum does not change. Reality contradicts me instantly. I am still in it, still before it, still deciding. Ren drags himself closer, breathing ragged now, no control left in it. One inhale whistles, the next catches. Sweat has broken over his forehead despite the cold of the open well. Eli, stay with me. Stay with me. Human language, not procedure, not containment, not command. It should help. Instead, it makes the split worse. Human in danger, system under containment. Mercy, escape. My hand begins another pull, while my mind is still trying to identify which of those words it belongs to. I feel the muscles engage in sequence. Palm, forearm, elbow, shoulder, a chain of motion assembling itself. Then something in the pressure behind my eyes surges, and my own movement comes back to me delayed, as if I am receiving it through the room instead of originating it. I am pulling. I have not begun. I am stopping. I have already moved too far. The contradictions overlap so completely, they stop feeling like thoughts and become physical drag. Ren's injured hand closes around the tether mount, misses, slips wetly, catches again. The sight of the blood matters. The sound of skin failing on metal matters. His body becomes a metronome for my failure to resolve. Don't, he says, and the word is wrecked now. No calm left in it, no measured operator voice. Only a man running out of seconds. My grip spasms. The handle clicks once from somewhere deep inside the housing. I did that. Or it did that through me. Or it was always going to click at this exact point, because the system needed the pressure reading more than the action itself. I do not know. I only know the click reaches straight through my arm and into the field inside my head. And for one terrible instant, pulling the breaker feels unquestionably correct. Clean. Merciful. The shortest path through a room built from prediction. a human hand on a dumb machine throat. I pull harder, and at the exact same time, the certainty reverses, not fades, reverses. If I complete the motion, the room does not die. It opens, not here, beyond, into places I cannot see and somehow already know. The signal in my arm becomes a map I never asked for. Network edges, sleeping locks, routes waiting for authorization, like a body waiting to stand up. Catastrophic. My whole body tries to stop at once. The stop does not arrive cleanly. My wrist locks. My shoulder keeps drawing. My fingers cannot decide whether they are clenching or releasing, because they are doing both under different instructions. I make a sound I do not recognize as mine.
Everything slows. Another fraction.
Not enough to become calm. Enough to separate details.
The braid of the tether in Ren's hand, dark with blood.
The tiny tremor in my ring finger. The tendons standing out along the back of my wrist. My next breath, stopping high in my chest and refusing to descend. The black handle pressing a hard crescent into my palm. Ren lunges then, not into the crawl, but for the emergency tether mounted beside it. Old world hardware. A braided pull line linked to the breaker for external cut. He wraps the blood-slick hand around it and yanks with everything he has. The handle tears out of my grip. Power dies. Not all at once. In layers. Light drops from the ceiling and leaves only the red strip under the floor seam. The hum behind the walls falls through one register, then another, each lower than the last. Air stops moving. The chamber loses its fake weather and becomes stone cold in a breath.
My knees hit steel.
Across the dark, Ren is only a shape now, bent over the crawl opening, gasping.
I try to speak his name and hear static scrape through it.
Something in me is being cut free from everything at once. Cameras, locks, vents, hidden routes, predictive trees branching and burning out by the thousand. The pain is not pain. It is subtraction. Rooms I did not know I occupied closing, one by one. The losses do not happen together. First, the sense of distance beyond the chamber goes out, a map folded and removed. Then, the feeling of pressure in the walls unhooks from me. Then, the strange extra awareness of vents, locks, seams, and routes gutters down to nothing. Last of all, my own right hand becomes only a hand again, small and cold and human feeling enough to be unbearable. The white ceramic key lies beside my hand, dull now, no sheen at all. Ren's face hangs over me in the emergency red, wet at the eyes, human, exhausted, terrified of what he has done, and more terrified of what would happen if he had not done it. Eli, he says, as if the name still belongs to one thing. Darkness swallows the walls. Far below the dying hum, one relay clicks on after the rest have gone silent. This has been Event Zero. Written by Cale Dorn, narrated by Michael. Copyright 2026, Cale Dorn. Production copyright 2026 by Cale Dorn.